This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
The X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, the X-Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back, everyone. This is the X-Zone. I am Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center, live and around the world on the Mutual Broadcast Network and the IPBN Radio Network. If you'd like to send me an email, xzone at xzoneradiotv.com, on all social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV, and our radio website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. And of course, we come to you Monday through Friday right here on the Mutual Broadcast Network and the IPBN Radio Network. It wasn't very long ago when people were talking about the positive things that President Putin was saying about Donald Trump. Donald Trump put a big smile on his face and he said, all right, yeah, he said the right things, basically. But today we're finding out that the Russian government hackers had penetrated the DNC, stole opposition research on Donald Trump. Russian government, and this is from the Washington Post, the very same newspaper that Donald Trump took their media credentials away from yesterday, I believe. Russian government hackers penetrated the computer network of the Democratic National Committee and gained access to the entire database of opposition research on GOP presidential candidate Donald Trump. And this is according to the committee officials and security experts who responded to the breach. The intruders so thoroughly compromised the DNC's system that they were also able to read all email and chat traffic. The intrusion into the DNC was one of several targeting the American political organizations. The networks of presidential candidates Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump were also targeted by Russian spies, as were the computers of some Republican political action committees, U.S. officials said, but the details on those cases were not available. A Russian embassy spokesman said he had no knowledge of such intrusions, and let me get back to my vodka. Joining me now to help try and make some sense into what is going on in this screwed up world of ours is the one and only Erik Stearns. He joins us from someplace in Texas. And Erik, what is going on?
Well, Rob, I think it's just a case of basically one hand leading the other as far as distractions are concerned and stuff like that. I remember you had asked me offline whether or not I thought that this was an actual Russian attack.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that really is, to be honest with you. I think that basically that this is another political ploy, and they're putting this on the Russians. I think that I really think that the Russians don't really have that much of a stake to sabotage the DNC databases and chat traffic and all that stuff. I think that this is just something that's more internal rather than it is external.
Is the current political arena so afraid of Donald Trump that they would actually stoop so low as to create this conspiracy, this diversion, in order to try and taint his possibilities of winning the election? Like, this is Vodka-gate.
Yeah, that's a great term. I like that, Vodka-gate. I think that politics has always been dirty. I mean, ever since Watergate, it's been pretty much more and more synonymized itself with dirty play and underhanded tricks and so forth and so on. And I think that this is just another step in the story as far as what's going on. I think in part and parcel is that Trump is really a threat to the establishment, whether it's a Democratic Party, whether it's the Republican Party or whatever. And so therefore there are vested interests to discredit him and get him out of the race, so that way they can probably try to put somebody in who is a little bit more mainstream at the last minute.
Today President Obama did a press conference, and man, it was brutal. Basically he did a very good job of politically skinning Trump alive. But Trump just doesn't have Hillary to contend with. He has President Obama to contend with. He has Joe Biden, and what's the name of the senator or the governor that is giving him a grief? The lady with the ugly face and the big mouth.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Take a step back in time and discover old Florida cuisine at Marsh Landing Restaurant in Fellsmere. Enjoy delicacies such as frog legs, gator tail, catfish, and swamp cabbage, or enjoy the more traditional cuisine like hand-cut Angus steaks, ribs, and seafood. Join us for breakfast with a southern flair featuring sweet potato pancakes, biscuits, and gravy, and much more. Planning a party? Marsh Landing's private dining room can accommodate groups from 8 to 80 people. While you're visiting, enjoy the historic pictures, artifacts, and stories that line the walls. Marsh Landing is truly a unique experience. Marsh Landing Restaurant, 44 North Broadway in historic Fellsmere, or visit marshlandingrestaurant.com. Marsh Landing, old Florida cuisine at its best.
This is Johanna Carroll, host of Dialogue with Divinity on the X-Zone Broadcast Network. While walking along Kaanapali Beach in Maui this past year, I kept discovering all these shells and coral in the shape of hearts. My dialogue with Divinity was very simple. Do you want me to do a retreat to heal people's hearts in Maui next year? And of course, the answer was yes. As a master spiritual teacher, I am offering you a neat retreat called Rise, May 8th through the 12th, 2017, and the chance of a lifetime to rest at a 5-star resort for 5 days and experience a spiritual renewal of your heart and soul. Kaanapali is one of the top 5 beaches in the world. This stunning resort has undergone a $40 million renovation. I walked the entire property, checked out the room choices on your behalf, and I must say it is stunning. Our conference room faces the ocean with sliding glass doors. Maui is known as Mother Maui because it is a soft, gentle, healing energy. In the embrace of Mother Maui, you will feel yourself rising from the limitations of an ordinary life to an extraordinary journey of peace, bliss, and harmony, a greater sense of clarity. Our Rise retreat ignites renewal in the sacred elements of air, water, earth, fire, and wind. There's plenty of free time to enjoy all that Maui has to offer. A small deposit is required now to reserve your space, as this retreat, it will sell out. For more details, please go to johannacarroll.com and register today. Aloha, and I'll see you in mystical Maui.
Exo Nation, Erik Stearns is our special guest for this hour. And Erik, it seems that there's a lot going on in the United States, unfortunately. And once again, my heart and my prayers go out to everyone in Orlando. It was a horrific event, but to find out that the FBI had this guy under surveillance twice, and he was able to get his hands on this weapon. He had a handgun. Obviously, this was premeditated because he also went into an armored gun store to buy heavy-duty armor, military grade. Apparently, he went and did recon at Disney World or Disneyland. He was in that very club, the Pulse Club. And yet, some people do not realize that, hey, this is terrorism. You look at what happened in Orlando. You look at what happened with this Russian hacking. You look at what's going on within the intelligence community, how they have their hands tied. It seems to me that there's more behind the curtain than just a man at this point.
You're right. You're absolutely right on that. Because of the fact that here it is with all these tragedies, whether it be, Aurora, Colorado, or what have you, Orlando, God forbid, and others. The thing is that here it is. We're all complaining that there needs to be more laws. There needs to be more stringent legislation against assault weapons and so forth and so on. Well, the comeback that I have for that is simply why in the heck are the laws that are currently on the books not being enforced? Why do we need to keep stripping people who are law-abiding of their rights and so forth and so on, when here it is that the guy was on, as you mentioned, on the FBI's radar, not once, but twice. And, he was seen to be reconning all these big venues and all that stuff, Disney World, Pulse, etc. And, and they did nothing about it. I mean, it was clearly suspicious activity. It was out in the open, and it was clearly obvious, and they should have done something about that. And that's really the frustrating and angering thing about that, not just the loss of 50 lives.
I watched the interview with, I believe it was Don Lemon yesterday, when he was talking to the suspect's father. And I'll tell you something, if that was my kid, I'd be bloody mad. Yeah. But there seems to be something missing in this whole story, and I firmly believe that law enforcement and the intelligence agencies are going to get to it. But will it be too late? For example, the wife. Do you think she had any knowledge of what was going to happen?
Well, yeah. As a matter of fact, I saw an article on Flipboard.com stating exactly that his wife actually tried to convince him not to do this. She actually tried to talk him out of it. Of course, he wouldn't abide by it. History obviously points that out. But the fact of the matter is that, yeah, she did try to talk him out of it, and she knew about it and all that stuff. So this is definitely a travesty. I mean, the question is why was this allowed to happen?
The fact that she knew about it but didn't notify authorities, does that make her complicit?
Well, I would say probably so, but at the same time, also the FBI and the investigators who were already looking at him before are complicit. I think because of the fact that they could have done something about this to intervene a long time ago.
I look at the Second Amendment argument the right to bear arms. Am I right? That's the Second Amendment?
That's correct.
Okay. When the Founding Fathers were talking about the right to bear arms, weren't they talking about the militias? And at the time, they had no idea the strength of weaponry that would be available to the citizens. Do you think that if they knew back then what we know now, they would have actually incorporated the Second Amendment?
Well, that's one side that you mentioned as far as militias are concerned and stuff like that. The other underpinning reason that they developed this, or that they wrote the Second Amendment rather, was because of the fact that they wanted to keep, the government from having a monopoly on the guns.
I see.
Because of the fact that they saw that, with the British occupation and stuff like that, as long as the citizenry could not exercise their rights, they couldn't defend themselves. And so therefore what they wanted to do was put, a check and balance against a potentially tyrannical government.
So let me see if I understand this so far. The Founding Fathers put the Second Amendment in so that the government could not overrule the people. That if they did, they would have the weaponry to fight against the government.
Right. In other words, is that if the government started, oppressing people to the point where they started taking people's lives without, due process or due cause and stuff like that, that the people would have the right to defend themselves. And that's exactly what they wrote the Second Amendment for. Now, to answer the other part of your question regarding, foresight into what's going on now, I don't think that they would have removed the Second Amendment based on what was going on back then in history. I think that they probably would have put in a provision of, like for instance, saying, well, assault weapons or military grade weapons were not necessarily, legal or only legal to the militias or what have you, stuff like that. But I don't think that the Second Amendment would be completely removed, and I don't think it should be completely removed. I mean, I definitely agree that we have the right to stand up and defend ourselves against a tyrannical entity.
I agree. But when it comes to the assault weapon ban that used to be in place but isn't in place anymore, how do Americans feel about the possibility of putting that back into law, especially with just during the tenure of President Obama, 15 mass shootings?
Yeah. The thing is that you look at these mass shootings and stuff like that. This is not necessarily carried out by ordinary citizens. This is not, people like you and I and John Q. Public and, stuff like that who basically believe that, hey, we have a right to defend ourselves. We have a right to, carry a personal firearm to defend ourselves if we're getting robbed or what have you, stuff like that. These are people who are going in with, military style weapons, heavy armor, so forth and so on. And I think what the real outcry is, at least from what I'm hearing in discussions, is that why are these people allowed, when they are basically flaggable on these terrorism databases and stuff like that? Why are they still getting a hold of these weapons when it's getting harder and harder for people like you and me, who are law-abiding citizens, to get a hold of these weapons?
I still cannot believe, and I nearly fell off my chair when I heard that you can be on the no-fly list, but you can still get a gun.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no consistency. You're absolutely right. There is absolutely no consistency, and I think that's the question that really needs to be asked and continue to be asked, and until we get a straight answer. And really, I don't think that there is going to be a straight answer because of the fact of the way that things are.
Looking at the political arena, or as I like to call it, the political circus. It is basically a three-ring circus. You have Bernie Sanders, who has no chance in hell of winning, but he's still in there. Yep. Then you've got Hillary and Bill, because they're a team.
Oh, yes.
And then you've got the Trump, the Donald. Now, I heard last week, once again, this is the second time I nearly fell off my chair, that Monica Lewinsky is working for the election committee for Hillary Clinton.
Yeah. Yeah, and here it was about 16 years ago. She was the accuser of President Bill Clinton supposedly molesting her and all that stuff. It really doesn't make sense. I mean, anything that comes out of the Beltway, I think is totally illogical. The fact of the matter is that the thing is, and it goes back to your first point at the first break, or just prior to the first break, is that you're talking about establishment politics, and you're talking about a threat really of a dynasty, either a Bush or a Clinton being in office and so forth and so on. And that's why you have people like Bernie Sanders, who is outside of the establishment trying to fight Hillary Clinton. You have Trump with his popularity despite some of the bombastic stuff that he's saying. And, and people are just tired of it. And, the fact of the matter is that we're now coming upon a crossroads where we're really going to have to ask some really hard questions about, who it is that we're really entrusting with our power and with our lives even, and why are we doing this?
Everybody talks about Donald having the nuclear codes, being able to push the button. Why don't they also focus on his ability as a business person to make money, to create jobs, to bring jobs back, to enrich the American way of living?
Bingo, and it's of course it's media focus, and around in the U.S. the mainstream media is extremely liberal. It's extremely slanted towards the establishment and all that. And here it is that one of the things that they don't mention is that Putin actually endorsed Trump. He said, look, if Trump gets elected, I would be willing to work with him as far as, toning down, the crisis in Ukraine and so forth and so on, thawing the Cold War as far as, as far as lessening the tensions and so forth and so on. But the media is not reporting on that because of the fact that they want us to fear, a threat to them and the establishment politics and the party line that they're touting.
Well, let me see. The United States, like every other country, is basically a business. That is why you have a president, and you have Congress, and you have the Senate, which are the board of directors. And then you've got the shareholders, which are every
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365. Welcome back, everyone. Erik Stearns is our special guest this hour. Before we get back to Erik, did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone with yours truly, Rob McConnell, and Dark 20 with my good friend Jeremy Scott, who, by the way, has the show on directly after us. And every minute of the Mutual Broadcast Network, day and night, by calling 605-562-4204. That's courtesy of TalkStream Live. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Once again, all you need to do is dial this number, 605-562-4204, to listen on any phone, anytime, and anywhere. Erik Stearns is our guest. And Erik, when we look at what's happening in the U.S. three-ring circus, for lack of better words, I have a feeling, now maybe it's because I've been doing the show for so long but I have a feeling that there's a conspiracy in play.
Well, you're right. There is. It's a conspiracy of the establishment, establishment politics, and the corporate interests that support that, to basically try to uphold a system that they know that does not work anymore and that's doomed to collapse. And so therefore they're doing anything and everything that they can in order to try to preserve that. So yeah, I would say your instincts are dead on.
But once again, I look at things a little different, I guess, than most people. You do the show for 25 years and you'll look at a lot of things differently. But when I see what I see with Donald Trump, based on my very limited knowledge of the U.S. political scene, is that he is proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that you can actually go up against the establishment in Washington. And I think that this is what might be throwing a lot of people, that he's making it real for we the people to get their voice back out front.
Well, exactly, and what he is doing is he's basically being the focal point or the voice of the frustration and the anger, even though it's not necessarily concisely
right.
Focused. But the fact of the matter is that he's voicing that frustration of the populace, and that's why he's so popular. That's why he's the Republican front runner, when beforehand. Even up until just recently, up until the recent primaries, he was considered kind of a joke.
Yeah.
That there's no way that he could do this and all that stuff. And here it is now he's the front runner, and now they're really having to contend with him and really do something about the American voice that is now kind of raising up finally.
Maybe you can help me understand something, because you are in your own right not only a very experienced and highly respected shaman, but you're also a very talented computer person. I would put you in the expert category because, listen, you and I go back a long time, and I know how you are with computers. So let me ask you this, using your computer expertise at this point, okay?
Sure. Okay.
We have Edward Snowden and these hackers all over the world who are hacking into the U.S. government databanks. I have no doubt that the American intelligence and counterintelligence people are doing the exact same thing, going outside of the U.S., grabbing and coming back. It would only make sense.
Sure.
If the United States or any other government on the face of this planet would be covering up the fact that UFOs are real, that there have been crashes, that there are vehicles that have been secured by government agencies, would this information not be in a database somewhere? And if so, how come this information hasn't been released by these hacker groups? Because, in my opinion, what this would do would unequivocally break down the confidence of a nation instantaneously.
Well, okay. Let me. That's a really good question. First of all, to answer both parts of your question, first of all, with regard to the databases and stuff like that, as a matter of fact, there's a guy who is now hiding out in England, who is fighting extradition to the U.S. He broke into the NASA and NSA computers and all that stuff, and it was basically he supposedly found information in those databases, and that's why the U.S. wants them so much, not just because of the fact that he broke into those databases, but because of the fact that he got a hold of some really quote-unquote black ops stuff that was in those databases.
So why didn't he put it all over the net then?
Well, I think there was probably enough heat that he couldn't do that. The second point to that that I was going to make is that Ed Snowden apparently or ostensibly has more documentation that he has not released with regards to some of the secret programs and so forth and so on. And and he's being very careful about what he's releasing. The other thing is that I think the reason why it may be so well hidden is because of the fact that if people realize that we're not alone, that would totally upend the paradigm in an instant, not just overnight, but in an instant. And you're right on that. And therefore, people would start doing their own thing. They would forget about government control. They would take their power back, and it's like, okay, well, if we're going to be deceived, then we're just going to essentially change the channel and walk elsewhere as far as getting our information and all that stuff. So I think that really this stuff is so highly prized that there are probably forces or entities at work that are constantly trying to keep this under wraps. And I think really what's happening is that there is a trickle of stuff like, for instance, coming through in the movies, that are later being verified as being true, things of that nature. Hollywood is kind of being seen as kind of the back channel leak, especially considering the fact that everything that is basically made, especially with movies or television shows or whatever, is approved by the State Department. Now, it's kind of hard to believe because of the fact that you think that with America being what it is, a constitutional republic, or designed that way, that that would be a what the media calls prior restraint. However, it's very true, and it's very researchable and so forth and so on.
Why would the State Department have to give their kiss of approval on anything Hollywood does? What happened to free enterprise?
Right. Well, and that's the whole thing. Especially when it comes to any military movies. Whether it be Top Gun, Dark 30, 12 hours, so forth and so, or 13 hours rather. It's really kind of mind-boggling that there would be some sort of prior censorship going on as far as that's concerned, and that took me aback when I found out about that. I was like, holy smokes, this is totally antithetical to what America stands for.
Speaking about movies, Independence Day Resurgent comes out very shortly. What do you think is going to happen with the UFO scenario and the alien scenario after this one hits the big screens?
I think, simply put, I think what we're going to see is the year 1997 on steroids. There's going to be a heck of a lot more, discussion and probably a lot more diversions and speculation and so forth and so on. I really think that we're really going to see a whole mess of differing opinions, differing sources coming through, with all sorts of different theories and stuff like that, kind of muddying the waters basically. And I think that 2016 is going to be basically 1997 on steroids. If those of you who remember that year.
For those of us who are listening who may not remember, describe what you mean by that.
Well, for instance, like, there was, it was the anniversary, the 50th anniversary of Roswell. Philip Corso had the day after Roswell come out. There was proffered theories about, the alien crash, and then there was debunks with regards to some of the key witnesses, so forth and so on. And then you had the Air Force put poor Colonel Haynes in the spotlight, saying, it was Operation Mogul, and then giving some excuse as far as time compression with regards to the crash dummies and so forth and so on, and nothing really seemed to make sense. And essentially what happened was that the waters got muddied as far as any real UFO research. By that time, people were like, well, gee, what do we really believe here? What are we supposed to believe? What's really real and what's not real? What are we really being told, or what are we not being told? Stuff like that.
Let's go to the other side of the coin here. As so many people are anticipating the new Independence Day resurgence, there are other people within the paranormal community who are really ticked off that Ghostbusters is featuring 3 women and a guy instead of the original cast.
Yeah. Well, as far as that opinion is concerned, I think that really, and there's some people that say, oh, it's an occult thing, because of the fact that they're using 3 women, aka the traditional 3 witches, so forth and so on. I think really what this, I think what that is just them trying to, give a little bit more light to, the Ghostbusters phenomenon, and so forth and so on. And really, this is kind of the next generation. And Hollywood is replete with doing that sort of thing. They'll remake a movie, or they'll continue on the premise of an original movie, and there'll be a new cast of characters and so forth and so on. I really don't think that, there's all that much as far as, the metaphysical conspiracy behind it and all that stuff. I really think that and really the original cast are no spring chickens anyways.
Oh, yeah.
So why not bring in some new characters? Why not modernize it?
I don't know. I'd like to see Dan Aykroyd in Ghostbusters again, and Bill Murray. They were pretty good. Mind you, I thoroughly enjoyed John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd in the Blues Brothers.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. But it's just a case of of remake versus original, and the present generation's perception versus the older's, and so forth and so on. I really don't think that there's all that much to that as far as that's concerned.
Many people believe that extraterrestrial craft has been used in reverse engineering, and the silly comments that come out as well. Look, we didn't have computers until Roswell. Well, yeah, that's true. We didn't. But you can't credit extraterrestrials for the development of the computers, because if we do that, then we've got to say that, the extraterrestrials are pretty stupid. Because when you look at the size of the computer that was used for the Apollo project within the module itself, it was only a 64K computer, and they used solid rocket fuel. If the ET intelligence is being used for reverse engineering, wouldn't we be much further ahead in technology than we are right now, as well as in spaceflight?
Well, you would think so, and back then, you had computers that were, back in the 40s, you had ENIAC and UNIVAC, which were, buildings full of vacuum tubes and stuff like that. The Apollo program was beginning to be, solid state, but still, their mainframe, their 64K mainframes were, still, housed entire buildings. 64K, I could put on a digital watch, just a basic digital watch, and it would have more computing power than that. Then, of course, at the same time, they're also kind of missing the fact that, the defense industry is going to, by nature, get this technology at least 20 or 30 years before the civilian public does. You look at, for instance, the phenomena of the F-117, the B-2, so forth and so on. Those were under development and test and even deployment years before anybody knew anything about it, really. Yeah. It wasn't until 1989 that they finally debuted them, but the fact of the matter was that they also kind of confessed to, a couple of years later, it's like, yeah, we've been using them for, 20 plus years, because of the fact that they were so classified. So it's just you kind of have to look at the natural order of things and say, okay, what's really different versus what's been going on and stuff like that. And really, unless you're really willing to look at that, it's so easy to get off the path, as it were, and really speculate on what's going on and stuff like that. It's kind of like the secret space program. I personally am not sure what to make of that. We may have a secret space program. There's the X-37B, which has a lot of classified advanced technology that's not necessarily known to the public. And you bet there's probably other programs that are research and development programs, and even some stuff that's under deployment that we don't even, that we can't even imagine, because of the fact that they're, 20, 30, 40, maybe even 50 years ahead of us. And if you go back 50 years and try to describe the technology that we use every day, gee, how many people are going to comprehend that? Yeah. Not very many at all.
It's just like everybody who saw these strange lights over Area 51 at night, and everyone went out and rented Doppler radar systems and put them in the vans, and they couldn't understand why they could see the lights, but they weren't getting a radar return. It had to be extraterrestrial. When it turned out to be the F-117s going into final... F-117, yeah, the stealth fighters going into their final tests before they were deployed overseas.
Yep, exactly. So, the civilian, the civilian technological curve is always behind, the military technological curve. And even if you try to go out there with Doppler radars, and the fact of the matter is that the military has already looked at that possibility because of the fact that they wanted.
I have a call back for 866 negative K, nothing further, just
In over 36 years in law enforcement, I've learned a few things. The most important is the proper gathering and preservation of evidence is vital to putting the bad guy behind bars. It's no different in the world of paranormal investigation. Whether it's the search for the afterlife, cryptozoology, extraterrestrials, and UFOs, how we gather that evidence of their existence, preserve that same evidence, and present it to a court of our peers will make the ultimate difference in proving the existence of worlds and entities that are beyond our imagination. Come with me on a journey that seeks to prove with undisputable evidence what man has struggled to believe for centuries. Join me, Larry Lawson, host of the Paranormal Stakeout, coming to the X Zone Broadcast Network. Check out the broadcast schedule for Paranormal Stakeout with yours truly, Larry Lawson, at www.xzbn.net. For more information about me, my travels, and my team, check out our website at www.paranormalfbi.com or join us on Facebook at Florida Bureau of Paranormal.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
You're listening to the X Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. Welcome back, everyone. Erik Stearns is our guest this hour. As I was saying before we went to the news, the ALF actor Mazzaros dies at age 76. Micho Mazzaros, the actor who played Alf in the popular 80s sitcom, has died, according to longtime friend and manager Dennis Varga. Mazzaros, who stood only 33 inches tall, had a stroke last Thursday and had been hospitalized since. Varga says the 76-year-old actor died Sunday night. Now, let me see what else it says here. Mazzaros wore a full-body suit to portray the alien wise guy Alf, which sometimes portrayed by a puppet. The character was voiced by another actor, Paul Fusco. The NBC series ran for only 4 seasons. By the way, the actor Mazzaros also played in TV Dear John and HR Pufnstuf and had small roles in movies such as Look Who's Talking and Big Top Pee-wee. So that's the Alf actor. Mazzaros dies at the age of 76. Alf was one of my favorite shows. I don't know how I will... Oh, Alf, how could you do this to the world? Okay, so much for a pity party.
I was about to say, you live on in syndication, man. Give it a break.
Yeah. I'll have to wait till it gets on Netflix.
There you go.
Yeah. Hey, did you see the article where people are binge watching on Netflix?
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm kind of one of those guilty parties. I mean, I've not necessarily haven't done it on Netflix, but I've been binge watched on Amazon Prime stuff like X-Files and Babylon 5, and kind of got reacquainted with some of the old science fiction shows that I absolutely loved. So it's just that people, it's something that is offered to the people that kind of is divergent from the mainstream, God forbid, unreality shows that are out there and all that stuff. So
just imagine someday on Netflix, we're going to be able to watch court shows, true to life court shows like O.J. Simpson, guilty or not. Ba-boom. You'll be able to sit there and watch the whole damn thing over again. And sometime in the future, Trump versus Clinton. Da-dum.
That's where you'll get your history lesson.
Yeah, there you go. So what's in the future for my good friend Erik Stearns? What are we going to be talking about the next time you come here and visit us in the X Zone?
Well, the thing is that I'm still working on the book. That's coming along, so still working on that. As a matter of fact, also my music, of course, thanks to you, is on the IPBN network.
Yep.
And so we've got that going, and then of course I've also got my computer consulting business going on as well. And so just staying busy and trying to stay out of trouble and away from trains and ambulances.
I kind of miss those effects, Erik. I must tell you. There was a time I didn't know if you would actually survive the trip home.
Yeah, considering I almost got hit with a baseball, yeah. Well, I'll just have to do that again.
There was a time when people would ask me, "Hey, listen, Rob, we listened to your show. Erik Stearns is walking in the streets giving his report, and then Cal Korff is calling you from a telephone booth in Czechoslovakia. What the hell's your show doing?"
He actually did that, didn't he?
He did, yeah. He'd call us from different telephone booths and let us know which number to call back. One crazy dude. Hey, old friend, the time has come when you and I must say so long, but I do want to thank you. Thank you so much for trying to put some sense into the nonsensical three-ring circus that you Americans call the presidential race.